The world rewards those who cannot be shaken. While the masses are tossed by every wave of emotion, every fleeting opinion, every external circumstance, there exists a silent minority who move through chaos untouched. They are not lucky. They are not born different. They simply understand something the rest do not. The ancient Stoics discovered a set of principles so powerful that emperors, generals, and titans of industry have guarded them for centuries. These are not philosophical musings meant for lecture halls. These are weapons of the mind, and today you will learn how to wield them. By the end of this journey, you will understand why the wealthiest 1% study Stoicism religiously and how you can use these same principles to become mentally invincible. Nothing will affect you, not failure, not betrayal, not loss, because you will have built something they cannot touch, an empire of the mind. The Stoics understood a fundamental truth that modern society desperately tries to hide from you. Your emotional reactions are not automatic. They are choices. And every time you allow an external event to dictate your internal state, you surrender your power. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the known world, wrote in his private journals that the universe is change and life is opinion, not fact, opinion. The moment you grasp this, you realize that almost nothing that happens to you actually matters unless you decide it does. This is not about suppressing emotions or becoming cold. This is about recognizing that your greatest asset is not your talent, your connections, or your resources. It is your ability to maintain clarity when everyone around you is losing theirs. The 1% know this. While others panic during market crashes, they buy. While others celebrate prematurely, they prepare. They have trained their minds to remain neutral, and that neutrality gives them a massive competitive advantage. So, how do you begin building this fortress? The Stoics gave us a framework, but it requires daily practice. You must start by separating what you control from what you do not. This sounds simple, but most people spend their entire lives anxious about things completely outside their influence. The weather, the economy, other people's opinions. What you control is far more limited. Your thoughts, your actions, your responses, that is it. Everything else is external noise. When you truly internalize this distinction, something profound happens. You stop wasting energy. You stop being a victim. You redirect all your power toward the only battles you can actually win. The battles within. Why the 1% use Stoicism to stay rich. Wealth is not maintained by those who chase every opportunity. It is protected by those who understand the psychology of decision-making under pressure. The ultra-wealthy do not just have more money, they have superior emotional control. When everyone else is driven by fear and greed, the two most powerful forces in markets, the disciplined few, remain calm. They see patterns where others see chaos. This is not innate genius. This is trained response. Stoicism teaches you to detach your identity from your outcomes. Your net worth is not your self-worth. Your business failure is not your personal failure. This detachment allows you to take calculated risks that would paralyze others. You can lose $1 million and sleep soundly because you understand that external circumstances are temporary. Your character, your principles, your mental discipline, these are permanent. In modern terms, this applies to every domain. The entrepreneur who can pitch his company after 50 rejections. The trader who can stick to his system during a losing streak. The executive who can make unpopular decisions without seeking validation. They all share one trait. They have decoupled their emotional state from external validation. How do you develop this? Start by practicing voluntary discomfort. Fast when you are not hungry. Take cold showers. Sit in silence without your phone. These small acts of discipline rewire your brain. You prove to yourself that you can endure discomfort without breaking. Over time, this translates into unshakable confidence during real crises. When you have trained yourself to be comfortable being uncomfortable, nothing in the external world can destabilize you. Emotional neutrality. Emotions cost you money. Every emotional reaction is a leak in your armor. Anger clouds judgment. Fear paralyzes action. Overconfidence blinds you to risk. The Stoics did not view emotions as evil, but they recognized them as dangerous when left unchecked. Seneca wrote that anger is temporary madness. Think about your worst decisions. Were they made in a state of calm clarity or in the heat of emotion? The answer is obvious. Yet most people allow their emotions to run their lives. They check their phone and feel anxiety. They see someone's success and feel envy. They receive criticism and feel rage. Each of these reactions costs energy, focus, and ultimately resources. The wealthy understand that emotions are expensive. A single decision made in anger can destroy years of careful planning. A moment of fear can cause you to sell an asset at the bottom. A rush of greed can lead you into a trap. This is why they practice emotional neutrality, not numbness. Neutrality. They feel emotions, acknowledge them, but do not let them dictate action. There is a gap between stimulus and response, and in that gap lies your power. When someone insults you, the insult itself has no power. The power comes from your reaction. If you react with anger, you give them control. If you remain neutral, you maintain dominance. How do you cultivate this neutrality? First, recognize the pattern. Most people are unconscious of their emotional triggers. They react automatically. You must bring awareness to this process. When you feel anger rising, pause. Literally count to 10. This simple act creates space. In that space, you can choose a different response. Second, reframe the situation. The Stoics called this turning the obstacle upside down. Someone cuts you off in traffic. You could rage, raise your cortisol, ruin your morning. Or you could think, this person is in a hurry, perhaps dealing with an emergency, and this has nothing to do with me. Both interpretations are equally valid. One empowers you, the other enslaves you. Choose wisely. The fortress of silence. Speak less, win more. There is a reason the most powerful people in any room are often the quietest. Silence is not weakness, it is strategy. When you speak less, you reveal less. When you reveal less, you maintain mystery. And mystery is magnetic. The Stoics, particularly Epictetus, emphasize that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen more than you speak. This is not just good manners. This is tactical advantage. Every word you say is information you give away. Every opinion you share is a position you must defend. The more you talk, the more you expose your vulnerabilities, your biases, your ego. In business, in politics, in relationships, the person who controls their tongue controls the narrative. Watch how the elite negotiate. They ask questions. They listen. They wait. And when they finally speak, their words carry weight, because they are rare. Contrast this with the average person who fills every silence with noise, who feels compelled to share their opinion on everything, who mistakes volume for value. These people are easily read, easily manipulated, easily dismissed. Your silence forces others to speak, and when they speak, they reveal themselves. They expose their needs, their fears, their leverage points. Implement this immediately. In your next meeting, commit to speaking 30% less than usual. Ask questions instead of making statements. Observe how others react. You will notice something remarkable. People will lean in. They will seek your approval. They will wonder what you are thinking. This is power. Additionally, guard your plans. The moment you announce your goals, you receive premature satisfaction. Your brain releases dopamine as if you have already achieved the goal. This reduces your motivation to actually do the work. The Stoics understood that action speaks louder than words. Let your results be your announcement. Build in silence. Win in silence. And watch how the world suddenly takes notice of someone who does not need their validation. Ruthless essentialism. Cut the noise. You are drowning in non-essential tasks disguised as productivity. meetings that could be emails, projects that do not move the needle, relationships that drain your energy. The Stoics were masters of essentialism long before the modern productivity gurus coined the term. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself, do less, but do it better. Most people are busy, not productive. They confuse motion with progress. They fill their calendars to feel important. But busyness is a form of laziness. It is lazy thinking. It allows you to avoid the difficult question, what actually matters? The 1% are ruthless about essentialism because they understand that time is the only non-renewable resource. Money can be made again. Reputation can be rebuilt. But time, once spent, is gone forever. Warren Buffett once said that the difference between successful people and very successful people is that very successful people say no to almost everything. This is not about working less. This is about working on the right things. Identify the 20% of activities that generate 80% of your results. Then eliminate or delegate everything else. This requires courage because it means disappointing people. It means saying no to opportunities. It means accepting that you cannot do everything. Start with a simple audit. For 1 week, track every activity. At the end of the week, categorize each activity, essential, beneficial, or non-essential. Be brutally honest. Essential activities directly contribute to your primary goals. Beneficial activities have some value but are not critical. Non-essential activities are time fillers. Now here is the hard part. Cut 50% of the beneficial and 100% of the non-essential. Yes, this will feel uncomfortable. Yes, people will be upset. But you are not here to please everyone. You are here to build something significant. And significant things require focus. The Stoics would ask, if you knew you had only 1 year to live, would you spend your time on this activity? If the answer is no, stop doing it immediately. Negative visualization. Predict and prevent disaster. The Stoics practiced a mental exercise that seems dark, but is profoundly liberating. Negative visualization. They would regularly imagine losing everything, their wealth, their health, their loved ones, not out of pessimism, but out of preparation. When you mentally rehearse worst-case scenarios, 2 things happen. First, you appreciate what you have right now. Second, you remove the sting of potential loss. Most people avoid thinking about negative outcomes because it is uncomfortable. But this avoidance leaves them vulnerable. When disaster strikes, they are psychologically unprepared. They fall apart. The Stoic, having already walked through the valley in their mind, remains calm. This practice is not morbid. It is strategic. Every military general plans for multiple contingencies. Every successful business has crisis protocols. Why would you not do the same for your life? In modern application, this means running pre-mortems. Before you launch a business, imagine it failing. What would cause that failure? Cash flow problems, bad hiring, market shift? Now, create safeguards against each scenario. Before you enter a relationship, imagine it ending. What would that look like? How would you protect yourself emotionally and legally? This is not cynicism. This is wisdom. Practice this weekly. Sit quietly and visualize losing something you value. Really feel it. Then return to the present and notice how much more grateful you feel. Notice how much lighter your anxiety becomes when you realize you would survive even the worst outcome. The billionaire investor Ray Dalio calls this knowing how to deal with not knowing. Most people are terrified of uncertainty because they have not prepared for it mentally. The Stoic has made friends with uncertainty. They know that loss is inevitable, change is constant, and because they have already accepted this truth, they move through life with a freedom that others cannot comprehend. Nothing can shock you if you have already imagined it. Value your time more than your money. Society has conditioned you to worship money while carelessly squandering time. This is backwards. Money is a renewable resource. You can always make more, but time is finite. Every hour you waste is an hour you will never reclaim. The Stoics were obsessed with time management, not in the modern productivity sense, but in the existential sense. Seneca wrote that it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. People act as if they are going to live forever. They postpone important conversations. They delay pursuing their dreams. They spend years in careers they hate, promising themselves they will make a change someday. But someday never comes. The 1% value their time with religious intensity. They calculate the hourly value of their time and refuse to do anything below that threshold. If your time is worth $500 per hour, why are you mowing your own lawn? Why are you arguing with customer service? Why are you attending meetings where your presence adds no value? This is not about arrogance. This is about resource allocation. Your time is your life. Every time you say yes to something trivial, you are saying no to something important. Conduct this exercise immediately. Calculate your desired annual income. Divide it by 2,000, the approximate number of working hours in a year. That is your target hourly rate. Now audit your week. How many hours did you spend on activities below that rate? Those are the hours you must reclaim. Delegate them, automate them, eliminate them. Additionally, the Stoics would remind you that time spent with toxic people is the greatest waste of all. These are the relationships that drain your energy without adding value. The friend who only calls when they need something, the family member who criticizes every decision, the colleague who pulls you into drama. Cut these people out without guilt. Your time is sacred. Protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. Ignore status games. Focus on real power. Modern society is structured around status games, designer clothes, expensive cars, job titles, social media followers. These are all signals designed to impress others and establish hierarchy. But here is what the Stoics understood. True power is invisible. The person who needs to broadcast their success is insecure. The person who wears their wealth is fragile. Real power operates in silence. It does not need validation, because it is self-evident in results. Marcus Aurelius was the emperor of Rome, yet he lived simply and spoke humbly. He did not need to prove anything to anyone. His power was structural, not performative. The 1% understand the difference between status and substance. Status is what others think of you. Substance is what you actually are. Status can be stripped away by public opinion, market crashes, or cultural shifts. Substance is yours forever. Building substance means developing skills that are valuable regardless of external conditions. Deep expertise, strong relationships built on trust, mental resilience, financial literacy, these are the assets that matter. Yet most people spend their energy on status because it provides immediate gratification. They post their wins on social media and feel a dopamine hit. But this is fool's gold. It is empty calories that leave you hungry. Stop playing games you cannot win. Social media is a rigged status game where algorithms, not merit, determine visibility. Corporate hierarchies reward politics over performance. Fashion and luxury goods are designed to extract money from insecure people. Opt out of these systems. Redirect that energy toward building something real. Learn a high-value skill. Start a business. Invest in assets that generate passive income. Build a network of people who respect your character, not your appearance. The Stoics would say that the opinion of the masses is worthless because the masses are easily swayed. What matters is the opinion of those who are wise, discerning, and principled. And even then, their opinion matters far less than your own integrity. When you stop seeking external validation, you become free. And freedom is the ultimate form of power. Adaptation. Pivot. When the market changes. The most dangerous phrase in any language is, "We have always done it this way." Rigidity is death. The Stoics emphasized that the only constant is change. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the universe is transformation and life is opinion. Those who cling to old methods, old beliefs, old identities will be crushed by the inevitable waves of change. The ones who survive and thrive are those who adapt. Darwin did not say the strongest survive. He said the most adaptable survive. This is true in nature, and it is true in markets, careers, and relationships. Look at the wealthiest people in history. They are not those who found one formula and repeated it forever. They are those who pivoted when conditions changed. Jeff Bezos started Amazon selling books, then adapted into everything. Elon Musk moves between industries, payments, cars, rockets, social media. They see change not as a threat, but as an opportunity. The average person resists change because it is uncomfortable. They have built their identity around their current situation. When that situation becomes obsolete, they panic. The Stoic has no such attachment. They understand that their identity is not tied to their job, their wealth, or their circumstances. Their identity is their character and their ability to respond to change. Train yourself to embrace change actively. Set a rule. Every year, you must learn one new, high-value skill. This keeps your brain flexible and your options open. Additionally, regularly assess your strategies. What worked last year may not work this year. Markets shift. Technology evolves. Consumer preferences change. You must be willing to kill your darlings. The product you love may no longer be viable. The business model you built your company on may be outdated. The career path you planned may be a dead end. This requires ego death. You must be willing to admit you were wrong and choose a new direction. The Stoics practiced this through voluntary discomfort and philosophical reflection. They constantly questioned their assumptions. You must do the same. Ask yourself monthly, if I were starting from scratch today, would I choose this same path? If the answer is no, it is time to pivot. Building an empire of the mind. Everything you have learned so far converges into this final principle. The ultimate form of invincibility is not found in external fortresses, armies, or wealth. It is found in the disciplined mind. The Stoics believed that the mind is the only thing truly yours. Your body can be imprisoned, your wealth can be confiscated, your reputation can be destroyed. But your thoughts, your principles, your inner citadel, these cannot be touched unless you allow it. Marcus Aurelius called this the inner citadel. It is the fortress you build inside yourself, brick by brick, through daily practice of virtue, discipline, and philosophical reflection. An empire of the mind is indestructible because it is not dependent on external conditions. You carry it with you wherever you go. In success, it keeps you humble. In failure, it keeps you resilient. In chaos, it keeps you clear. This is why the 1% invest so heavily in their mental development. They read philosophy, they study psychology, they practice meditation, they work with coaches and mentors, not because they are weak, but because they understand that the mind is the ultimate leverage point. A strong mind can turn any situation into an advantage. A weak mind will squander every opportunity. Build your empire through daily rituals. Start each morning by reading Stoic philosophy, even 10 minutes. This recalibrates your thinking before the chaos of the day begins. Journal your thoughts. Writing forces clarity. It reveals your irrational fears and unproductive patterns. End each day with reflection. What did you do well? Where did you fail? How will you improve tomorrow? This is the Stoic practice of evening review. Over time, these small disciplines compound into an unshakable foundation. You will notice that external events affect you less. Criticism rolls off. Setbacks become lessons. Success does not intoxicate. You have become anti-fragile. The more pressure you face, the stronger you become. We have now established the core disciplines. You understand why the elite study Stoicism. You know that emotional neutrality protects your resources. You have learned that silence is strategic. You have embraced essentialism, cutting away everything non-essential. You have prepared for disaster through negative visualization. You value time over money. You ignore status games. You adapt to change. And you are building an empire of the mind. These are your defenses, your shields, your armor. But defense is not enough. Now we move into the territory of active mastery. The next principles are not just about protecting yourself from external chaos. They are about shaping reality itself, about becoming a force that others must reckon with. What follows is not for everyone. These are the advanced tactics that separate the competent from the exceptional, the comfortable from the legendary. If you have made it this far, you are ready. The discipline of perception. Reality is negotiable. Most people believe they see reality as it is. This is the greatest illusion. You do not see reality. You see your interpretation of reality filtered through your beliefs, experiences, fears, and desires. The Stoics understood that between any event and your response lies interpretation, and interpretation is a choice. This means that reality, as you experience it, is negotiable. Two people can experience the same event and walk away with completely different meanings. One sees a setback as proof of their inadequacy. The other sees it as valuable feedback. Neither interpretation is objectively true. Both are constructed. The question is, which interpretation serves you? This is not positive thinking or self-delusion. This is strategic reframing based on utility. The Stoic asks, given that this event has occurred, what is the most empowering way to interpret it? Marcus Aurelius practiced this constantly. When faced with betrayal, he could have spiraled into bitterness. Instead, he wrote that people do wrong through ignorance, not malice. This reframing protected his peace and allowed him to continue leading effectively. You must develop this skill. When something bad happens, pause before reacting. Ask, what else could this mean? What opportunity does this create? How can I use this? Every major success story involves someone who reframed disaster. Steve Jobs getting fired from Apple. He later called it the best thing that ever happened to him. It freed him to create Pixar and Next, which made his return to Apple triumphant. Oprah getting fired from her first television job? It pushed her toward a path that made her a billionaire. They did not just endure these setbacks. They actively chose interpretations that empowered them. You must do the same. Train your mind to see obstacles as opportunities. The Stoics called this, the obstacle is the way. The very thing blocking you is actually pointing you toward the path you need to take. This is not philosophy. This is survival strategy for the mental battlefield of modern life. Strategic discomfort, voluntary hardship, builds immunity. Seneca practiced something that seems insane to modern comfort seekers. He would regularly live like a poor man, sleep on a hard floor, eat simple food, wear cheap clothes. Not because he was poor, he was one of the wealthiest men in Rome, but because he was training. He was building immunity to loss. If you know you can survive on nothing, the fear of losing everything disappears. And when fear disappears, you become dangerous, not to others, but to circumstances. You can take risks others would never consider because you know the worst-case scenario does not destroy you. This principle is wildly underused in modern life. We are conditioned to seek maximum comfort at all times. Climate control, luxury beds, food delivery, entertainment on demand. But comfort is a trap. The more you need to be comfortable, the weaker you become. The person who cannot function without their morning coffee routine, their specific pillow, their preferred temperature, this person is fragile. They have created dependencies that limit their options. The Stoic deliberately creates discomfort to prove they do not need comfort. This is not masochism. This is insurance. Implement this immediately. Once per month, live below your means for a full day. No luxuries. Simple food, no screens. See how it feels. You will discover something liberating. It is not that bad. Your fear of loss is worse than the actual experience of loss. This knowledge is power. Additionally, seek physical discomfort regularly. Cold exposure, fasting, intense exercise. These practices rewire your nervous system. They raise your threshold for stress. When you can stay calm in physical discomfort, mental discomfort becomes trivial. The entrepreneur who does ice baths does not panic when a deal falls through. The executive who runs marathons does not break during difficult negotiations. They have trained their bodies to endure, and that training transfers to every domain of life. Remember, comfort is the enemy of growth. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you become weaker. Every time you choose challenge over comfort, you become stronger. Choose wisely. The art of premeditated action. Think, then move. The average person is reactive. Something happens and they respond emotionally and immediately. The Stoic is different. The Stoic creates space between stimulus and response. In that space, they think, they calculate, they choose the optimal action. This is not hesitation. This is precision. Reactive people are predictable. Predictable people are easy to manipulate. When you can be provoked into action, you are being controlled. The person who masters premeditated action cannot be controlled. They do not respond to bait. They do not take obvious moves. They think 3 steps ahead. Sun Tzu wrote that every battle is won before it is fought. The victory happens in the planning stage. By the time you enter the battlefield, if you have thought correctly, the outcome is already determined. The Stoics applied this same principle to daily life. Before entering a difficult conversation, they would mentally rehearse it. Before making a major decision, they would consider all possible consequences. This is not overthinking, this is due diligence. Most people fail not because they lack talent, but because they did not think things through. They acted on impulse. They followed emotion. They took shortcuts. Make this your practice. Before every important action, take 10 minutes to think it through completely. What are all possible outcomes? What could go wrong? What is your backup plan? How will you respond if things do not go as expected? This simple practice will prevent 90% of avoidable mistakes. Additionally, never make important decisions when emotional. Anger, fear, excitement, all of these states cloud judgment. The Stoics would wait. They would sleep on it. They would consult their principles. Only when calm and clear would they decide. This discipline alone will put you ahead of most people who are ruled by their impulses. You will become known as someone who is thoughtful, reliable, strategic, and these qualities attract opportunity, respect, and power. Memento mori, death is your greatest teacher. The Stoics kept human skulls on their desks. Roman generals returning from victory would have a slave whisper in their ear, "Remember, you are mortal." This was not morbid. This was essential. When you remember that you will die, everything becomes clear. The petty arguments become meaningless. The status games become laughable. The fear of judgment evaporates. You realize that you have a limited number of days, and each one you waste is one you will never reclaim. This awareness does not lead to despair. It leads to focus, to urgency, to living in alignment with what actually matters. Steve Jobs said that remembering he was going to die was the most important tool he ever encountered to help him make big choices in life. Because almost everything, external expectations, pride, fear of embarrassment or failure, falls away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. The wealthy and successful are not immune to death. In fact, many of them are more aware of it than the average person. They see how quickly fortunes can be lost, how suddenly health can fail, how life can end without warning. This awareness drives them to act now, not someday, now. Practice this daily. Each morning, remind yourself that this could be your last day, not to create anxiety, but to create clarity. If you knew you had 1 month to live, would you spend today the way you are about to spend it? Would you care about that argument? Would you delay that conversation? Would you waste time on trivial distractions? The answer is no. You would cut straight to what matters. You would tell people you love them. You would pursue your most important work with ferocity. You would stop pretending. This is how you should live every day, not recklessly, but intentionally. Death is not your enemy. Death is the deadline that gives life meaning. Without it, everything could be postponed forever. With it, every moment becomes precious. Use this knowledge. Let it liberate you from fear and hesitation. You're going to die, so stop living like you have forever. Start living like you understand the value of now. Nothing can affect you once you understand these principles. Not because you will never face adversity, but because you will have transformed your relationship with adversity. You will see obstacles as training, loss as liberation, chaos as opportunity. You will have built an internal empire that no external force can touch. This is not theory, this is practice. The Stoics were soldiers, emperors, slaves who faced unimaginable challenges and emerged stronger. You are facing your own battles in a different time, but the principles remain unchanged. Mastery of the mind is mastery of life. Everything else is commentary. Now you have the map. The question is, will you walk the path? Don't forget to give a like or a hype and subscribe to the channel. Watch the next video to complete everything you just learned.